Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about how I was humbled by ThredUp. So obviously this video is not sponsored. I'm about to say some possibly negative things about my experience selling clothing on ThredUp, and perhaps go into detail about how and why I wouldn't do so again, despite initially thinking that it was a reasonable, easy way out of rehoming the clothes that I was letting go of. So I think I talked about this in a video last month or the month before that about how I had decided to send in a take-back bag to ThredUp, or whatever they call it. I think it's a clean-out kit from ThredUp. And I was going to just use that as a kind of quasi-consignment. And yes, it probably would have been better to try to do this locally, but it was also just easier. And, you know, convenience culture has permeated my life just as much as everybody else's. And I've certainly learned through this experience that I want to do things differently and that it is a priority to do things differently. I watched this video from Design Theory, I think. I'll link it up here. And it was about how everything valuable is a cultural lie. I think that was the title. And my algorithm is following me and observing the things that I'm interested in, possibly observing even the things that I'm talking about on my own channel, and realizing that I'm breaking down a lot of consumerist narratives that I have believed my whole life, or from the time that I've been able to formulate ideas and choose what to believe and what not to believe. And I certainly have not always chosen correctly, and I'm vulnerable, or have been vulnerable, probably still am, honestly, to the manipulation of outside forces. And various factors have made me more easily manipulated than perhaps the average person. Or perhaps not. I guess I'll never know because I'm only one person. But for context, I have shared before on this channel that I have grown up feeling like somewhat of an outsider all of my life, having been a child of immigrant parents and looking perhaps dubiously ethnic in various settings, and then moving in my early teenage years. So I don't really have a place that feels like home in an undeniable way, or a place where it feels like people would accept me as somebody from that place. And so trying to fit in or have the right stuff or believe the right things or have an in crowd has served as something of a safety mechanism, I guess, for me. And I'm ready to stand on my own 2 feet and not rely on these safety mechanisms. And hopefully, by talking about it in an open way, if you have any of these tendencies or have had any of them in your past, you can realize them as well and be empowered to make your own choices or to stand alone if need be. Hopefully not alone. I mean, I am providing a presence here for that very purpose, I guess, to ensure that people exploring these ideas don't have to feel alone, even if we aren't necessarily in the same place, country, city, whatever it may be. A space for the intense and serious thinkers, I guess. I have also noticed it's hard to find people in real life to have these discussions with, and so here we are, using the power of the internet for good, I hope. Now, back to the matter at hand. I watched this video by Design Theory. You can watch it to have this more eloquently summarized and researched, but basically the gist of it was that anything valuable was a product of context, cultural context. And so I think one of the focuses of the video was art, and how this art piece that was essentially a banana taped to a wall sold for thousands or millions, or I don't remember exactly how much. The details escape me, but it sold for a lot of money because of the cultural context, and basically because people were willing to bid for it, and it signified something in the art world. And that made me think about my experience with ThredUp and sending in some of my formerly beloved pieces of clothing. And if not beloved, some of these were pieces I was influenced to buy for hundreds of dollars. And I guess to provide more context to this, I sent in some of the specific pieces. Let me pull up my list here. These pieces included things like the Nordgreen watch, which I believe was around $200 for the whole package. And heartbreakingly, they didn't know the brand and didn't include the different strap options, which is the whole draw of this watch. I packaged the watch and the straps in their own dedicated bag with the hopes that whoever was packaging these things would realize, these straps are interchangeable, and would sell all of them together. But I see on the listing, it just has the one gray strap that was attached to the watch, and who knows what happened to the other straps. So that's frankly, that's really upsetting. And what's adding insult to injury is that the payout for this watch, I guess it was sold and has been delivered. The payout to me is $2.11. And this was never about making money. I shared that when I talked about it in the first video about my choice to do this. But if I was going to be paid $2 from this, I could have listed that watch up on Mercari and sold it for $5 and been paid $2, you know, with after fees from resale. And I would have had the same outcome minus the effort of having to list it. And at the time I was feeling overwhelmed, and the effort of listing things and managing the Mercari app and having to kind of be on there and expose myself to things that I might then want and buy was something that I didn't want to confront. But I do consider myself now in a place better equipped to have done that, or to do that with the things that I might be letting go of in the future. And especially after this experience, maybe I couldn't have learned that I don't want to do it again without having gone through it, but I just wanted to share my experience here in case any of you are contemplating this for yourselves. So let me continue with the blow by blow. The Nordgreen watch was definitely super upsetting how the straps were not made a part of it, and clearly whoever was appraising these things just didn't know, or perhaps had not been exposed to the same content as I had and just wasn't aware. And so again, the cultural context that made that watch valuable to me at the time of purchase, even if it wasn't valuable in terms of actual use, was absent from the transaction. And so hopefully the buyer is aware of what they purchased. And I mean, again, I don't want to have false value ascribed to pieces of metal and fabric. You know, it's not that I want it to be inflated beyond what it is, but again, it's just so frustrating that the straps that were the feature of the watch, the design feature, the reason I bought it, were not a part of the listing. And the other things that, you know, that's perhaps the most frustrating example, so leading with that right out of the gate. But the other things that got sold or listed, again, the highest payout I have here, I think, is a $25 payout on an item that actually got returned, so I won't be getting that payout. It might be relisted for the Ghani leopard dress. And so the other payouts are lower than that, less than $20. Some of these $4, $7, 32 cents for the Ozma silk scarf that again was $85 new or something like that, and again was not being sold. Obviously the selling price is higher than my payout. The selling price here I've got is $5.43. So again, you know, whoever was pricing these things, I guess, probably didn't know what it was. Otherwise they would have priced it higher so that the company could earn more too, right? Like, it's not just me complaining about a lack of payout here. And do I want to fund ThredUp? I don't really know. I clearly would not take a sponsorship from them, even though I utilized their service legitimately. But anyway, 3 items had no earnings and will be reused or responsibly recycled. This is the other most upsetting thing about this experience for me. One of those items was my beloved Tibi jeans, the ones that had gotten too small for me, the Brancusi model that was my favorite pair for a while. And while they had become unwearable to me, and while I was not really willing to try to modify them or hang on to them or, you know, do the work involved to keep them, again, they're kind of a unique piece, so I couldn't really guarantee that people in my life would get use of them, like other basics in my life that I'm keeping in case, you know, kids grow into these things and want to wear them, or they provide a legitimate source of, you know, furnishable clothing, right? The Tibi jeans are kind of a style piece, and so somebody very well may not want them, may not like them or want to wear them, but they had nothing wrong with them, and I don't understand why they were not sellable. Again, they couldn't list them for $5 or something like this. You know, I'm almost suspicious that there was something else at play here. I don't know what their relationship is with the brand Tibi, or if they have other things listed. I honestly don't know. I'm not going to look into it, but there was nothing wrong with this pair of jeans. They were only a year old or so. I purchased them during my first No Buy year in 2024, and they could not sell them. And I call BS. Honestly, I don't actually, because I'm not, perhaps I should reach out and find out, but I don't really know. I think once you send them your things, that's it. You know, like you can't try to recall them or complain and get your stuff back. Like, that's part of the conditions of the take back bag, or I keep calling it that, the clean out kit rather. that's part of the conditions of the clean out kit. But I mean, I guess I have a social media presence. Do I owe it to the public to try to do some journalism here? It's definitely not within my wheelhouse, so I honestly probably won't. I'm just sharing the perils of my experience for you to do with as you will. Or, you know, we could just hang out together for a little while this afternoon. So anyway, in summary, ThredUp showed me this concept of cultural context value in action by grossly undervaluing a lot of the clothes I was influenced to buy. And while I'm happy that they do seem to be selling, even if the most expensive pieces were returned by whoever bought them, and will hopefully be able to be resold, you know, the Ghani dress and the lavender blazer, that again was a really beloved piece, was purchased and then returned by somebody. So hopefully it'll sell again, and ThredUp will then $17.95 fee from anything that I do earn, which again, they're already getting a lot of the price of the item anyway, so I don't fully understand why there's a selling fee on top of, I mean, I don't make the rules, and I willingly opted into it when I sent my stuff there. So I guess I just envisioned it working out better than it did, and it is on me. I'm not complaining about the company. I am just sharing my experience and that I would not do it again. I would wait until I had the time. I do have the space. You know, I've got underbed Tupperware bins or whatever and closets that I don't have to confront every day. And so I can store these things until I have the bandwidth to resell them. That's what I will be doing in the future, doing it personally, putting in the work, making sure that things that are perfectly functional don't get resold because of who knows what reasons. It was actually 3 things that they didn't resell. One of them was a plain dark blue t-shirt from Walmart, and I understand that the value of a Walmart shirt is not maybe high enough to resell. And then the other one was the linen strappy black top, which I have had listed for a long time and haven't been able to resell myself either. And so I understand that was from a brand in Africa called the Mie that I purchased, I think, during the Black Lives Matter movement when these businesses were being spotlighted. And so while it does have value and it is a really nice top, I think I tried it on during my closet try-on video of 2024. It was something that was going to be hard to sell, and without having pictures modeled on a human body, which I wasn't really willing to provide for my own selling listings, it probably is an item that would not have necessarily sold. I should have probably kept it in case people in my life grew up and were interested in it, since it was a black top with a strappy back, and so it has more general appeal, I guess. But at the time that I sent all these things away, I did also feel that pull to simplify my life. You know, the call of minimalist simplicity was, the siren song was singing in my ears, and I thought, oh, if I could just get this pile of clothes out of here, that would be great. And incidentally, I've got another pile of clothes here that I might talk about later in September. I'm slowly kind of pulling out the things that I did not wear at all this whole summer, summer 2025, and I'm going to do the same kind of curation, I guess, but I will not be sending anything to resale. I will either resell it myself or store it for use by others or use by myself in the future if and when my tastes change, or if I get the wild itch to wear something completely out of my wheelhouse. So I'll share what those things are later in case those of you who are into clothes are curious about the developments of my wardrobe. But yeah, I mean, when I first got that ThredUp email about the value of my clothes, I was honestly flabbergasted and filled with regret, I guess, is another way to put it, because I could have probably sold one of those clothing pieces on Mercari for the amount of the whole payout that I could get from the 16 pieces they decided to list from that bag. I mean, those of you following along with this channel will know that the jeans that they didn't list at all, I purchased for $116. And so I could have probably sold those for $20 or something like that to somebody who actually likes that style, or is looking for them, or is familiar with the brand, or has some of the cultural context to give them that value. And again, I'm not really a fan of the fact that brands have value, or that cultural context can dictate the price of things. I'm breaking down those narratives for myself. And so on some level, I'm not really upset about ThredUp taking these things at face value or at the value of somebody not familiar with the brands. However, for practical reasons, if somebody knows these brands or knows the cultural context, they can get a lot more value out of something, for good or for bad, right? Like, I don't make the rules, I just participate in the system and follow it, and I actually, I don't really want to support continuing to do that. So I'm of two minds, but my initial visceral reaction as somebody still coming out of that land of consumerism is to be upset by the fact that they didn't really know and they didn't really get the full value out of these items, or they didn't really know how to sell them or how to pitch them. And somebody who would have appreciated these things is maybe not going to get them for the deal that they could have gotten them for. I mean, honestly, when I sold things on Mercari, I was one of those sellers that would take every offer. I would price things down until they sold, and my aim was never to get the most money back out of it. And unfortunately, I did tend to turn those earnings around into purchases. And while I don't think that's necessarily bad, if you have a need for purchasing something specific or rotating something for reasons of fit or comfort or lifestyle changes, it was posing a problem for me in this journey of trying not to rotate things for the sake of it, or not for rotating things for other reasons, reasons that are not functional, as I try to remove myself from the landscape of trends and fashion influence in that way. And aside from trying to personally resell, I guess, the other thought that I had was that if I had a community here in my local city, I could have put a call out as far as, any of my friends want these clothes, anybody need a new watch with these interchangeable bands, and I could have even given these things away for free, and they could have gone to somebody who would have truly appreciated, wanted, needed, and used them. And that's perhaps the most upsetting thought, or what makes me feel the most duped, is that I participated in this system for a long time, and in trying to get out of the system, I'm still participating in it, rather than feeling empowered to find better ways out. And I can't fight this by myself. In fact, part of the reason that I didn't get out of it in a more elegant way by rehoming my things locally is because I'm by myself, or because I'm kind of an island here, or because for various reasons I feel all of these kind of reservations or stigmas towards listing my things like that. I think there's the narratives out there that people trying to offload things for free are just getting rid of junk and trash, or they have shopping problems, or they're people to be suspicious of, or looked down upon in a way. Like, there's a colleague I know who frequently tries to resell things and upgrade, and I myself have looked at that as a sign of a shopping problem, or a sign of a desire to constantly optimize life, and kind of looked down upon that. Never to this person's face, or I haven't even really talked about it with anybody else who knows this person, and now I'm airing the dirty laundry on this channel. But for the purposes of sharing that I do feel societal judgment, if I were to just go on Facebook and say, here, free clothing, free Nordgreen watch, free kind of, does anybody want this? I would feel like people would look down on that. Or if people I knew saw that, they would be like, ooh, she's got a problem. And I would feel embarrassed. And it's not positive. It's not normal. It's not, we shouldn't have to make all these disclaimers. I think I saw another post that came up mentally for me when thinking about this. There was a friend who lives in another city who was putting out a call for anybody who has a spare pair of headphones that they would be willing to let them have. And again, I know people in my life that have talked about things like this, people asking for stuff for free, as people begging, or people kind of expecting things, or taking advantage of people, or mooching, I guess, is another negative connotation of people. But again, if we had this context of trying to be an anti-capitalist society, or at least, a community, let's take capitalism out of it for the purposes of an open-minded discussion, not because we can avoid being political. But again, my understanding on that's developing. Maybe I'll share some of that in the August recap. But moving along for today, if we had this collective-minded community more as a pervasive part of society, then, and again, I hope it is. I hope it is for you. I hope I'm the only one trailing behind here. But something tells me that if I have these narratives still in my psyche, I'm not the only one. If we had more of a collective mentality, then we wouldn't see these things and think, oh, somebody I know would say that was begging or freeloading or whatever. we could just approach it positively and say, oh, if anybody has a spare pair of headphones that they're not using, why not give it to somebody who needs them? If I need, I was thinking about this the other day, actually, how I kind of wanted to try French press coffee again, because I now am able to perhaps increase my quota from 1 cup of coffee per day to more, but I use an AeroPress, and I also am wanting to decrease the plastic I use in my kitchen, and the AeroPress is plastic. And so I was thinking, I wonder how to get a French press without buying one new. I've owned one before, so this kind of feels ridiculous. How is something that I've already had that I'm going to have to repurchase when I could have either just kept the one I had, although honestly it was in Texas that we last had a French press, and we've moved states, and so a glass, it maybe wouldn't have been practical to move, pack up. But I'm sure there are people that I know even who own a French press but aren't using it. And if it was socially acceptable, I guess, to put out a call, and it is, really, I could make it socially acceptable by asking, or I could perpetuate that progress, I guess, by just doing it and not really paying heed to the judgments that might fall upon me. But I'm still more comfortable with the idea of scouring Goodwills and doing the work myself so that I'm not viewed as somebody mooching off of other people, or, putting out a call for begging, I guess, to see if anybody has a French press in the back of their cupboards that they're not using, that I could even just borrow while I wait for Goodwill to turn up with one. And I haven't really looked yet. Maybe Goodwill will have one the first time I walk into one. I don't really know. But I just wish it was more normalized, or I wish I had a community, put it that way, maybe. Maybe it is normalized in other circles, but just not in any that I've found my way into thus far. And we started with ThredUp, and we ended up with trying to outsource a French press that nobody's using. And, again, I've seen people talking about how people send each other things and people are begging for this or that, or people are taking advantage of this, or I want to break free of it. I want to both embody moving forward from that and feeling good about it, but also, I guess, just have an easier time myself of finding these communities and feeling accepted in general by society at large for all intents and purposes. It doesn't help, I guess, that I've recently seen stories shared on social medias, people I know, about gay marriage being put up for federal consideration again. And I haven't looked into the news stories, so I'm not trying to make any claims here. This is not me reporting or anything, but it boggles my mind that the federal ruling on legalizing gay marriage has actually only been in effect for 10 years. 10 years, and this is an issue that didn't really need to affect anybody. I mean, I know now that there are probably effects or reasons for people wanting to not allow this in terms of profits or capitalization on things or whatever it may be. And I don't understand the depths of those things. And I'm only just beginning to understand how much I don't understand about those things. But on the surface of it, when you just take all of that out and have the discussion about marriage and who should legally be able to get married, it just seems totally ridiculous that it would be prohibited between any two members of the human species. That just seems totally mind-boggling to me. And then to think that that only happened within the last 10 years, and I guess there's still debate about it now, today, I can't fathom. It just feels sometimes that humans, historically and even in the present, will look for any way to be able to oppress other humans or take advantage of them or to claim superiority over them. And I just don't understand why we keep on doing this. And I guess, honestly, that is part of what's fueling this feeling within me of not feeling comfortable to ask for these things or to share these ideas with people I know, or honestly to just have conversations in real life. And it's just frustrating. And I want to do more to break these bonds, both on here with you and in real life where I live. And so maybe that's where I need to end this today. Maybe I need to go out and try to find some more community connections. I think this is going to become a recurring theme, at least for me in my outside life. If not on this channel, we'll see. We'll see where we go. So yeah, in conclusion, don't buy stuff, don't buy clothes you don't need. When you realize you don't need them and want to get rid of them, don't sell them on ThredUp. Ask people in your life if they actually want these things, and resell them yourself to people who actually want these things and know what they are and will appreciate getting a good deal, or cutting out the middleman, because we don't need more middlemen in our lives. We just need more connection to people in our society. And with that, I will say bye for now and see you in the next one.